We can get started whenever you're ready, sure.
Roll and
I'm gonna admit this person. I don't know who they are though,
yes.
so help me out, guys. Case special. When I call your name, please say yes. Please let me know if you are here. Amanda Archer, or anyone with Youth Project. Ashley Hathaway. Here. Live Post.
Here.
Faith Faith, or anyone with Advanced Health. Jimmy was gonna come and he couldn't make it today. They're doing a new electronic records system and he's getting trained right now. Melissa Johnson, present. Joanne Brewer. Here. Joanna Olson or anyone with McCavan. Judy Albert.
Here.
Camille Leggett. Grace Martinez or anyone with Northern Circle Indian Housing Authority. Teresa DeSimone. Here. Paul Davis.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Gonna open it up to public comment. If anybody has any public comment on non-agendized items? No? Let's move to the approval of minutes. This would be from June 15th, 2026. Give everybody a minute to we'll try it over. We'll take 80 minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for June 15th. Second.
Anybody have any comments or corrections? Monica, can you take the vote?
When I call your name, please say yes, no, or abstain to approving the June 15th minutes. Ashley. Abstain. Here. Clyde. Yes. Melissa. Yes. Joanne.
Yes.
Judy.
Abstain.
Teresa. Yes. Motion approved.
Alright. We're gonna move on to the announcements. Does anyone have any?
Actually, Paul, we have two sets of minutes.
Oh. That's right, look at that. Let's review the August 10th. Get a motion to approve those.
From the special board meeting last week.
I move to approve the minutes for August 10th.
I'll second.
Any discussion or corrections? Veronica, can you take a vote on that, please?
Yes, no, or abstain when I call your name. Ashley. Abstain. Clyde. Yes. Melissa. Yes. Joanne.
Yes.
Judy.
Yes.
Teresa. Abstain. Motion approved.
Now we'll move on to the announcements. Does anyone have any announcements? We're gonna move on to reports and presentations, starting with updates from local jurisdictions. Cameron, you see that?
I'm sorry. Sorry. I was not, I was spacing out a little bit. There was a couple things I wanted to update the board on. They're really more like status updates. Front Door for Families, which is the kind of umbrella program that the Department of Social Services runs for our housing support services for families with children. It's really, really busy. So I just wanted to warn people that the volume of clients is not going down at all. Can't quite figure out why. But we're about a month out on appointments. It's kind of the way it is. So I can't figure out any way to reduce. We've been trying lots of different ways to kind of have quicker access for individuals. It's not something we're able to figure out right now. So we continue to prioritize for appointments, families that are involved with child welfare services. And the CalWorks housing support families also tend to have a slightly different pathway. But we're just really, really busy. I think I updated the board on this, but I'm not totally sure. I did share with the board that the Department of Social Services homeless outreach team is no longer out on the streets. I'm still completing that transition of street outreach clients that seem better suited for behavioral health. I'm slowly sending them over to behavioral health in various formats. That's going to be done pretty soon. And I think what I wanted to highlight to the board is that of our 2 street outreach team members, one of them moved to Florida and the other one is Leanna Sweet, who's still here. And we have transitioned her work to focus on former foster youth. So it's a smaller caseload, really high needs caseload, really interesting group. So we are have that focus area for her of, again, their transition age youth. Most of them are former foster youth. We're getting referrals directly from social services on those individuals, but both the group that are between 18 and 21, so they may be enrolled in extended foster care, but Department of Social Services tends to be particularly concerned about those that are turning from 21 to 22. Had some support from social services if they had chosen to engage in that up to age 21, and then they're kind of on their own. So we will work with that group up to age 24. Along those lines, Department is going to issue, I think really soon, a request for proposals, an RFP for what some funding source that's transitional housing. It's called the transitional housing program, but it's kind of a little package of services and support for transition age youth. The contract for those services had been held by RCS for a number of years, and I don't think a RFP had been done in a while. So they are going to be issuing that RFP. There is rumor that there's some new providers for transition age youth in the community that are interested in doing this work. They had some sort of very vague name. I can't remember what it was. It was like E something. So I'm interested and curious to see what happens with that. But any of you that are interested in serving that population, be on the lookout for that RFP. And when it is announced, I'll make sure Veronica sends it out to the whole board.
Do we have an idea of what that pot of money looks like?
I feel like it's, pardon?
Is it THP?
It's THP, but it's a confusing name because THP just says Transitional Housing Program. There's a pot of money that comes through social services, and there's a pot of money that comes through HCD. They're kind of separate, but kind of serve the same purpose. I feel like it's like $100,000 a year, but I'm not totally sure. And it can be used for both housing costs and support for, again, transition age youth with an emphasis on former foster youth. So that should be happening really soon. And the goal is, I think the department wanted to be able to have these new contracts in place by January 1st, which seems a little hard, but might be the goal.
Thank you, Cassie. So the Front Door for Families and working with like CPS, those are the group of families who are trying to reunify with their kids, that there still is housing vouchers available for.
The FUP vouchers, I mean, Teresa can kind of explain that better. I mean, there's not even close to the demand. There is more demand. There's far more demand than availability, but they are eligible for FUP vouchers. And I feel like CDC is able to kind of issue them, trickle them along.
So we have 20 FUP vouchers. So if some, and they're all 20 of them are fully utilized right now. So when somebody comes off of the program, then we pull the next person who's on the waiting list.
So that's
with
really
FUP
limited
vouchers.
amount.
Yeah, there's only
Vouchers then.
for that.
I didn't
program.
realize that. Wow.
I feel like
it's always very exciting when somebody gets a foot voucher, but it's only a couple a year really, just because of the way that it goes. So, yeah, no, they don't, they have that very limited specialty vouchers available to them, but. And the Friend for Families program is pretty expansive. It does homeless prevention and eviction prevention.
So it
I
can
mean,
help cover an expense to keep people in it.
yes,
And that can be anybody
with children.
with children, yeah.
With children. I don't want to say anybody because there's eligibility requirements too. They need to meet some income expectations. There needs to be some sort of reason they're behind on rent, not just kind of chose
Right.
not to pay rent. So there's a possibility, there's a process to assess for whether they're eligible for our housing flex fund. But so not everybody's definitely eligible, but the requirements to make an appointment for Front Door for Families are that you live in Mendocino County and you have children and you're experiencing housing instability. That's kind of where you start, and we kind of figure it out from there.
And Teresa, is there any idea when the vouchers will ever reopen again?
To apply for more, I don't know.
And I think you mean the waiting list for HCV.
Oh, the waiting list for HCV. We are planning on opening our housing choice voucher waiting list within probably the next 60 days.
Really?
Really? Yeah. So that's some exciting news.
That's exciting.
We're hiring a waitlist and eligibility specialist. We haven't had one for over a year because we haven't been processing those applications.
So do you think you will
So-
be able to process some of those?
Yeah, yeah, for the voucher program.
For the voucher?
Yeah,
That's good.
yes.
I'm just gonna put a bug in folks' ear. And ultimately, it's up to CDC whether or not it's a program they want to oversee. But there is the Foster Youth Independence Voucher Program available through HUD. It's something we've talked about in the past, but there wasn't quite enough demand. And I wonder if, because our system has changed, if that might have changed. So maybe something we can talk about in the near future.
I think that one is just constantly open to apply, right?
Yes.
From what I remember.
Yeah, it's like a over the counter kind of a thing versus.
Yeah, I wonder, and I feel like I've read about it and you apply for like one household at a time and then they provide the funding. I don't know if they give you like 20,
Okay.
you know what I'm
Maybe other
saying?
programs, yeah.
Which might work out okay, you know, because then you're only getting for what you actually need.
Yeah, I'd be curious to, I mean, I know you guys have a lot on your plate, CDC does, but I'd be curious to revisit that just because our team is getting more familiar with that group
Mm-hmm.
and they need a lot of help.
Yeah.
And I know there has to be an MOU between the housing authority and the child welfare department. And the COC is involved in that. I'm not gonna say they're part of the MOU, but the COC is definitely involved in some way.
Yeah, I think we can look more into it, especially at the beginning of the year. For sure.
And then lastly, our Project Home Key Live Oak Apartments continues to have really high demand, but we are having a fair amount of turnover. People are moving out, they're moving on, so we do seem to be able to house, say, every couple of months, like 2 or 3, it seems like. So I can encourage you to continue to submit applications. Remember that your applications are only good for 90 days. So if you have somebody you're particularly concerned about and you haven't submitted an application in a while, make sure you kind of keep up to date on that.
And I guess just from the school end, that has become a little bit complicated because where it's located is in one district, but there's a district that doesn't provide transportation to that area. So if we have families in the transitional housing that are going to stay for any length of time, then we're looking at long-term transportation issues with the school district. So like just knowing, maybe, I don't know if there's a way for us to do case management of like this family is moving on or they're moving to this area that will kind of help us gauge services for that housing project. Because it is within the
UK?
Oak Manor or Yokeo, and they don't get busing there. So
Oh,
they
Yokeo
are
doesn't do busing
sending-
at all. So if you're moving there, but you're a Oak Manor or a Frank C kid.
Correct. And
far
they're
away from
trying
your-
to figure out like how to reroute buses and that becomes a little complicated and it's, okay to patch things through for like a family that stays for 3 months, but I know some of our families have been there over a year. Yeah, so.
So Megan, do you have an update in terms of like the people who are able to transition out? Is that because they, something else opened up or?
It's a bunch of different reasons. Sometimes they voluntarily leave, sometimes they found other permanent housing. We've had some that haven't paid rent and they, maybe they didn't go all the way through an eviction process, but were given a notice to vacate and they did.
Okay.
All kinds of reasons, really.
Okay.
Yeah. I will say I don't have any data on this, but some of our clients that choose to move, then don't do very well. It's kind of I don't know what to think about that. And then they kind of like show up again. And I'm like, this is unfortunate because the goal was to stabilize, particularly if they're voluntarily moving. And these are clients that moved into, I guess I would say in some ways less supervised settings or less staffed settings. Like, not as much sort of on-site case management and sometimes it doesn't work out.
Yeah, I just think it's such a good model that we need more of those models as well as, I just think there's lots of different models that people could have success in.
Yeah, it definitely serves an important purpose. It has high demand and I think part of the reason we continue to get a lot of referrals is our ability to move people in is very fast. Like it just.
It does seem faster than almost.
No, I guess I don't necessarily mean the waiting list, but when we have decided to move somebody in, there's not a long process. We kind of figure that out once they're settled in, but it's not for everybody, but for those who. I should look more closely at the data because I'm thinking about some people who recircled like 2 years later and I'm like, oh, that's too bad. This person didn't thrive the way I hoped. Maybe they did initially, but they're back. Not necessarily back to Live Oak, but they're back with another application.
And so what does the waiting list look like now and any vacancies like for referral process?
So right now, our waiting list is always really high. But we get a lot of referrals that I'm not going to say they're inappropriate, but they're not. I know that they're single adults without children that are not necessarily don't have complex medical conditions. So those ones just never are really going to be at the top. But we accept them all because we don't totally know until we know more about the individual. We are trying to prioritize. We're paying attention to the households that are going to lose housing at Unity Village. So there's some kind of special attention we're paying to certain families right now.
I think we're really close to.
I know you're super close. Yeah, I'm relieved. But we are, there's at least 1 2-bedroom coming up soon. There's another one that has a little annex room that we would have prioritized for a 3-person household. So there's like a small handful, I think, that will be available soon.
And if you notice kind of on that side of town, just regular apartments are becoming available as well,
I've seen a lot of people move into Acorn Valley Plaza recently.
And and so I don't know, is that what it is? They found other places, other locations or, but there's just more of those, 2-bedroom for rent kind of thing.
Yeah.
So.
A lot of housing has been built over the last couple of years and starting to see kind of.
Does anybody know the one that's being built on kind of do you have?
I don't know. Is that Marigold?
Yeah. Yeah, it's basically, it's Ore Creek 3, but it's not. It's
called
Marigold.
Marigold.
Yeah, it's our CHDCs.
Right.
Yes.
Is that a mixed use or?
It is gonna have a mixed variety of some referral units as well as some straight low income wait list units. Yes, it'll be blended.
Are you able to share what special populations or referrals are?
I would have to go back into, they're still finagling a few of our specialty units and allocating them out. But it looks like the majority of them are going to be referral units with a small portion being waitlist, kind of like we've done in Ore Creek 1 and 2. But we should be able, it should be another 40 units and that way, we'll just keep on going.
It's 40 units.
Mhm.
Are the other 2 buildings 40 also? So it's sort of just like them.
Yeah, it's basically, we slight differences in each build, right? Because we learn as we go and make some slight changes, but it should be pretty
Well,
simple.
that's a significant number coming.
Yeah. Do you know when they'll be I just know once you guys start building, it's sort of fast. but
Yeah, they are pretty fast. Usually after we start building, it's about 18 months.
Oh.
Right,
It's like
it's,
shorter than that usually.
no, because by the time the build happens and then
Inspections
the
already.
inspections, and then during that period's when we're working people up, but yeah, it's usually about 18 months.
And what does the referral unit mean?
Referral units means that they're going to be allocated maybe RCS referrals or RCRC referrals or special CDC units. They're a specific allocation of units that they.
A certain number billed by them, certain
Yeah,
number billed by them.
exactly.
That's all I've got.
I just wanted to share that the next agenda item is just a placeholder in case behavioral health arrives. We haven't adjusted our agenda yet. It's just kind of where I put it for now.
Okay. So we'll move on to City of Ukiah's Shannon here. City Port Bragg, Melissa, you got anything to share?
No updates from the city.
Are there any other local jurisdictions present?
I don't know if Mo has anything to add. She is in the public.
I'm just listening today, but thank you.
Right. Okay, we're gonna move on to standing committee reports, starting with strategic. Veronica?
We were supposed to meet this week, but it's taken us a little bit longer to get the adjustments to the strategic plan. The outcome from everything in a format that's easily digestible. So we postponed it by a week. And we're gonna meet here in this room on August 26th at 2:30 p.m. Anything to add, Megan?
No, that's it. Thanks for those of you that saw my last minute rescheduling. I appreciate your flexibility and kindness. I just wasn't ready this week, so I will be ready next week.
Shelter and solutions.
We met last week and we're gonna meet again September 9th, 2026. 1:15 also in this room. The last meeting was usually our off month, but we decided to meet anyway or meet again because of the public comment, the written public comment that the board received. Can't remember if it was the June or July meeting, but we received a public comment from a mother of an adult son who has a severe mental illness. And we didn't talk about the case. We spoke about when there are situations such as the one presented, what is the COC's role? What are we capable of doing? The person who submitted the public comment attended the meeting. We had a really good engagement. Was able to provide quite a bit of education on, what the COC is, what it does. And really, I think that what we determined was the current housing interventions that are available through our system aren't meeting a lot of the unique needs that folks are presenting with. We've seen folks struggle in, wall-to-wall apartments whenever they have mental health symptoms that are disruptive to people around them, or either noisy, potentially destructive. And so we just kind of had a conversation about that. I got an email over the weekend from the public commenter that her adult son doesn't want her engaging in the advocacy anymore. He, his symptoms of paranoia and feeling like he's always being watched were spiked because whenever she spoke with him. So she does want to continue engaging with us, with the recommendations that she has, but they're not going to be focused on him. And she's gonna be updating everything to not reveal his personally identifying information at my suggestion and at the committee suggestion. So there was a lot to discuss, but I think we did a really good job of doing it from the systemic perspective, because that's the COC's role, is overseeing the system that serves folks. Paul, I'm still gonna be reaching out to you to connect the two of you so that if and when he is willing to speak with somebody, maybe an outreach worker, somebody can go speak with him for you guys.
So one of the things that I thought was interesting, I mean, one, she was a very reasonable person, and, you know, just really advocating for her mentally ill son. But what I thought was more the focus is that the kind of housing, such as low-income housing, does not suit him because of his particular noise sensitivity and that. And so what she was hoping for was not a lot, kind of almost like there could be a motor home kind of in the woods, you know, which is of course not anything that we have available that would be low income housing unless you had a voucher and you could find something that somebody was renting that, but not something that, and I've never seen any low income housing project that would be designed that way. But that was what so, you know, I thought it was gonna be a special needs, like a really severe disability, but it really, I mean, it is a severe disability, but meaning that it's too much stimulus. I can't survive in an apartment complex.
And we've had cases where folks are in housing and they end up having it, the tenancy terminated by the landlord because of the symptoms and because of the apartment damage and things like that. And so she's not presenting a unique or one-time issue. This is something that we've all seen over the years. I'm sure Ashley could tell us all about it, you know?
It's kind of a challenge in that the quiet and the isolation is something we, as people that set up a program on property that you're responsible for, oversight and everything, is that intrusion or is that presence too? So it's kind of finding the right balance might be different per person.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it could change.
Yeah, and it's not the same for each of those individuals on a daily basis, right? There's a lot of fluctuations, or one person's something can trigger somebody else's. The conversation I have with my tenants often is not making our bad day somebody else's bad day, right? Is so because we do live so closely together. Trying to be as supportive and engaging with people to help them be successful, but also understanding that the needs of one can't outdo the needs of the other 40 individuals that live there, right? So we definitely have to find a lot of balance and try to make the best decisions for everybody.
We heard this feedback from our folks with lived experience during our strategic planning committees, our focus groups and outreach. And so, you know, we're bringing it to the strategic planning committee to, you know, explore different types of housing models that could be recommended or pursued by the COC. But the biggest challenge that we discussed was that the funding sources that come through the COC or are made available through local jurisdictions have a lot of stipulations, such as it has to be within a certain distance of a grocery store, public transportation, things like that. And whenever you're talking about this model, we're talking about not being near all of those things. And so it has to be funded a different way, and it's a completely different business model. And so the COC, we're just a group of folks that make decisions and recommendations, and you know, there's fundraising, if we were to fundraise, where would that money go? Like, and who's interested in operating it? Because the COC can't operate a housing site. That's what you guys do and your members to contribute to with your experience. And so it's really going to come down to interest in what the capacity within our service providers are. There was a lot of discussion.
Planning and building 2020.
Hmm?
The planning.
Oh,
Building.
yes, that was thank you for that reminder. Buffy Barasa, who works for the sheriff's department, attended the meeting and she brought up that the County of Mendocino's planning and building department is updating its housing element. They have an open survey right now. I think the information meeting has come and passed. But I highly recommend that folks check out the planning and building website.
So it's not just for what you're adding, but what might still be there. The first time I did it, the Buddy Eller Center was still there. So it's one of those things, I think we all are good about adding, but we probably
Forgot to.
Yeah.
The most recent one that's approved has both the COC and the Housing Services Planning Group, which was replaced by the COC in it.
On the coordinated entry and discharge planning.
The next meeting is on September 17th. We are focusing on holding a community feedback session on prioritization factors, and the best way to design our coordinated entry system. We're waiting for feedback from Hospitality Center and RCS on the report Nutmeg generated on the 2025 data from our system. And so once that report is ready, we will schedule, is approved, it's ready, but once it's approved, we will publish it and schedule that meeting.
Veronica, the goal is still kind of October, November-ish for the community feedback session?
Oh, I want to do it sooner than that. I wanted to do it before the end of this month, but I'm not.
Okay, so shooting for September,
I'm
hopefully.
shooting for no later than that.
Okay.
Yeah. At this stage on that one.
I thought somebody replied, they loved it. Maybe it just went to me. Check it.
Questions?
Community accountability.
Has not met. Our chair's MIA. I'll have an update for you about that one at our next.
Should come
Hasn't met, but is working on things related to that I just gave. I'm working on communicating with one board member who hasn't attended some consecutive meetings, as well as a couple of member agencies that we haven't seen in about a year or so. Just to confirm that, I was given direction last week, so I haven't really had a chance to follow up on that yet.
HMIS and performance measurement.
I'm gonna let Casey start that. Casey and or Amy.
So Amy and I wanted to give you an update about the agency administrators meetings. The COC wants to get the band back together. This meeting is really for the folks who serve as the HMIS agency administrators. We're bringing these meetings back to give agency admins a consistent place to connect, check in on data quality, walk through workflow challenges, and just make sure we're all moving in the same direction with COC standards and HUD requirements. It's really meant to be a collaborative, helpful space. We sent out a poll to the agency admins to choose one date in August for our first meeting. The poll is really only for that first meeting, and once we get all together in a room, we'll talk about how we'll schedule ongoing, but it looks like folks are gonna wanna meet on a monthly basis for a little while and then go quarterly. So I know that not all agency administrators are here today, but if you have connection with somebody, if you could just remind them to look for an email from home team with a poll in it and ask them to respond. We're really hoping to get that feedback by noon tomorrow so we can get it on the calendar before the end of this month. And it looks like that at this first meeting, we will introduce a short survey for HMIS users. And the goal is to collect some feedback that will help us define realistic data quality benchmarks. And then this is all about the data quality management plan and bringing that back to you all here at the board for review and approval. So more information coming, but if you saw that poll and haven't had a chance to chime in, please do so maybe later on today or early tomorrow morning so we can set it.
And then I'll go ahead and go over our data completeness report part that is still attached. We haven't quite moved on to our data quality report yet. Meg is still working on getting that right to our community. There's a little typo on the agenda. This report actually goes through the end of July, not the end of June. So it is the most up-to-date version that all of our agency administrators receive, just like they do every other month. There's nothing particular of note. Just a reminder that street outreach program, if you see they're failing on things, that they do not collect the same data as everybody else. If you ever have any questions now and or later, you can always email us at home team as well.
Questions or comments about HMIS performance measurement?
Did you want to do that? Okay, there's one more thing. I do have one more thing. They're finished. With our contract with Wealth Sky Corporation, who's our current HMIS vendor and has been since 2019. The quotes that we obtained were in 2018. And so county council and county procurement requires that we do a new bid. And so we will be working on doing a new HMIS vendor request for proposal to procure potentially a new vendor. Wellscape may respond and that's the quote that we want to go with, and maybe nothing will change, but maybe we'll pick somebody else. And so that I just wanted to update the board that we're looking at implementing this. We're going to work back with the committee to develop it, but once it's ready, I'm wondering how the board would like that reviewed, because I can't publicly release it before it's published for your approval, because then anyone who sees it online gets a sneak peek, and people who didn't get a sneak peek, and that's a violation of procurement laws. So I'm wondering, do we want to have a ad hoc created for that? Do you want me to just go for it? Or how does the board want me to handle that?
County procurement didn't have a suggestion, just.
Well, I know the normal county procurement process and any questions about that process, I absolutely can. But before I publish the RFP, I'm wondering if the COC board wants to have somebody from the COC look at that and approve it, if there wants to be like an ad hoc committee that I develop the RFP and before I publish it, they give us the green light. Or are you okay with me just following my normal process and releasing it?
Can you broadly go over some of the points that would have in it? Like, what am I thinking here? What are we asking for it to do?
Host our HMIS. Meet minimum HUD reporting requirements, which our current contract and contractor will not provide. There is a clause in the WellSky Master Services and Licensing Agreement that was in the 2019 agreement and is in the most recent version that says that they do not guarantee the system will meet the customer's minimum reporting criteria. So if our annual performance report breaks and Teresa has to submit her APR to HUD and misses her deadline, oh well, they're not going to take responsibility for that or guarantee it. Now, HUD requires them to have all of that. So in order for them to be accepted as a HUD approved vendor, they do have to meet all of that. So there's motivation for them to do that. But if they suddenly decided they wanted to just back away from the industry and not do HMISs anymore, like they could do that and we wouldn't have any.
How many HUD approved vendors are there? Do you know? Like hundreds or like 5?
Like somewhere between 5 and 10. It's
So
more
that,
than 5.
that's
but-
kind of West Coast too,
No, that's nationwide.
nationwide.
So I think that's the thing that I'm realizing. There's not that, I mean, if we just look at California, there's not that many vendors.
And Caseworthy recently acquired Acovia's client track. So Caseworthy offers Caseworthy and they offer client track. So it's one vendor with 2 options.
Who is not the vendor we have.
No, we
So
use
I think the thing we've learned about WellSky in the last couple cycles, they have some very large books of business around electronic health records. They're not that interested or engaged in
Right, so that's
HMIS.
what drives their business model.
And
we're
they're
not
really
going-
uninterested in kind of working closely with us. I mean, this last contract was a little hard to get through because county council wanted some changes that were pretty benign, and they were just like, no. And we were like, if we're like, fine, we'll take our business, they'll say, we don't care. So I think it's been a little challenging for us. I still think there's a chance we do this RFP and they don't respond, or they're the only respondent, or these, I mean, we really don't know because we haven't done this in so long. So I think though, to your question, Paul, I mean, the package we're gonna be putting in the RFP is not gonna be that much different than anybody else's package, like anybody else who's done this recently. We're gonna be looking at models, we're gonna be getting support from HUD. It's just, where I really think the COC is gonna be important is let's pretend we get 2 or 3 responses. It's gonna be in the review process of the responses. But I don't know, again, because these are large companies who don't totally care what we think. If we tailor our RFP too narrowly, I don't even know, they're gonna offer us the package they have.
So some of the COCs that work with the consultants that the state pays for, is there any way we could get informal information about who might be really happy with something and who might not be?
So
Insider, little information.
Well, maybe we just ask our counterparts.
Yeah. I've been kind of doing that, but instead of with the state TA, it's with my other
Your
COC. and
Your
trying to meet.
peers, yeah.
California has a large majority of COCs that were with WellSky have transitioned to
Is
BitFocus.
that different than the one you just mentioned?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, BitFocus. That's not the company name, that's the platform. I can't remember what the company's name is. But that is their only business. That's all they do is HMIS. They're 100% HMIS and nothing else. So, and the same thing with Caseworthy. But Caseworthy isn't just an HMIS, it's also a case management tracking tool. They're about $100,000 a year. BitFocus is anywhere from 35 to 75 when it's looking at what our needs are. I got an informal quote from both of Caseworthy and BitFocus so that we could, have some procurement and have some updated quotes.
So are we developing this RFP to kind of open it up and see like who else is out there that may want the contract? And we have to do that in order to.
We have to do that anyway, but I mean, because it's been too long.
Competitive contract.
Yeah, it's been too long that we haven't done a competitive contract and I mean, it's not terrible timing because we're being told we need to do it and they're probably right. But it also, it's a good idea because it might be that, I mean, even though a transition will just be a like pain, but it might be there's a platform out there that's better, I think. And I think that's an interesting point when we look at the responses. Some of you use, I'm thinking mostly Paul, but use HMIS pretty heavily for case management type notes. So if we're looking for a platform that does just HMIS really well, but not this sort of case management part, that's a little bit different than one that has some extra capability that people may be interested in using. So.
Well,
Yeah,
this is not a large market, so all of them are based on some sort of case management or electronic health record and attacking this on to
Mhm.
the limited number of customers.
Right, that's, I mean, we're not exactly begging, but I don't think they're like, ooh, I can't wait to get a code.
But so in regards to an ad hoc, I'm just trying to wrap my brain around it, is that we may not necessarily need an ad hoc just to look at the requirements in that RFP, but we are going to need an ad hoc that if we got more people applying for it, then the ranking and rating essentially for those particular.
We would need an evaluation panel for sure.
It seemed like it would be wise to look at what we said the requirements were before of who we have now and see if we agree that's what they are. I would think probably they are. But these people often come with pitches of new
Fancy things they
functionality,
want to
so-
have.
And we
sometimes you
will
get swept
be,
up in that.
part of the RFP timeline will include demonstrations. So after they submit a response, then we can host actually pulling it up and having them do a demonstration. And Casey on Friday submitted a request to the HUD exchange for technical assistance. And so Chris Pitcher is already aware of it, and so they'll be helping us with it as well.
I would be willing to help if you need help. It's been 15 years since I've been a procurement manager, but some of those laws haven't changed.
I'll bring it back.
Okay. When we made the first transition from the original one to the second one, it was really obvious that the county was taking advantage of or oversold.
The original one or the second one?
The original one. This oversold capability that never really materialized. And so I like that, they're going to show us what it is, but I like to have a sandbox so you can get in and see, did it really do what you said it would really do? Because it's really easy to say, these are the specs and these are the specs. The demonstration of the specs is probably the real scoop. And maybe people have figured out they should not do that, but I felt like the initial thing, we got kind of not an ethical response in my mind.
I mean, my experience, and it's more limited than many of you, but IT vendors often oversell. It's just like classic.
Sure.
And I think we need to assume that we won't be getting a lot of customization. So we should be looking for a product that kind of has what we want it to
Or
have.
they'll tell you.
I don't want to leave them. They'll tell you they
They'll
can't.
tell you
Yeah.
they can, and then they'll give you a
A really expensive reason or just never have it all. Yeah.
It's like, well, the answer really is no, because they don't have $2
Yeah.
to do that. Yeah. So, yeah.
Alright.
The RFP 4-26, I think it's pretty much done. I'm still negotiating a few contracts, but I think we can disband it. I think we need the committee.
And it is.
Um, the COC competitive competition, I think we should keep it for a little bit longer. I have an update under the funding section of our agenda on where we are at with HUD and a recommendation to rescind our local milfo because the existing milfo was found unlawful. And HUD has acknowledged that. And so I'll talk to you more about it. So I think keep it, let me know at the end and we'll make that part of that discussion later.
Okay. County manager, collaborative.
Yeah, I think back in June, some of the barriers that were discussed at the reentry collaborative was about accessing partnerships, medi rides out of the jail to treatment. Buffy did a lot of legwork and went back to partnership to talk to them about those barriers that we discussed and basically did a report back from that about some progress that's been made. And so partnership is ready to do that and provide that service out of the jail. There's still some barriers regarding the transfers of and making sure everything is active, but they will accept referrals for transport. It does require 5-day notice. If it's court ordered, they need 7 working days. I don't know why that is. It wasn't something more official requires more notice, but that is an active thing. They're having a lot of staffing issues at partnership. And so there's a lot of, you can be on hold for a long time when calling to try to set up those rides. And so they provided referral forms that can be faxed. I can get those out to the COC. I just forgot to send them to you, Veronica, but they say that oftentimes faxing a referral will cut down on those times with the timeout that happens if you're on hold. And but all of that all the information has to be pre-filled. So you have to know
Exactly where they're going.
Exactly where they're going. And then there was a lot of talk with the public defender's office about making sure that office has access to this information to partnership to coordinate for their clients. If somebody's on probation, their probation department needs to be included in that process. And then the jail discharge planners are available to help with that process. And I think that's most of it. And then there's going to be an upcoming resource fair in Brown Valley. That was last week. It's not upcoming anymore. These meetings happen at the beginning of the month. And so sometimes the information's already out of date. Any questions on that? I can try to answer.
I have heard that that's one of the services that partnership's going to continue to provide that's not sunsetting at the end of December.
Yes.
Have you guys heard that too? That story is consistent. That's great. That's great. But I feel like it's gonna take us a long time to get this where it's really working.
Mhm.
I was curious if they talked about logistics at all, meaning obviously a partnership driver is not going to be sitting in front of the jail for 3 hours waiting for that process to happen. I mean,
Yeah, so
about that?
they touched on it briefly. Basically, that's where coordinating with the jail discharge planner to make sure, like, say, somebody has to be at a treatment center at, 10 a.m. Treatment center sets those parameters usually. And so there's not often a lot of negotiation, though it's possible. I've done it. Then you got to figure out the drive time. That driver needs to be at the jail to pick up probably half an hour before, and the jail discharge planner needs to know and be able to communicate with the driver to make sure that that person is ready to go and walk out of the jail and is
That's
gone.
a complicated logistics. I mean, it's some
It
part.
is,
Yeah.
which is why partnership has been less willing to do jail
Mm-hmm.
pickups. It's not just like picking up someone from the shelter or from their home
Yeah.
or from even a specific bus stop. It's a lot more coordination.
We do have a staff member, George Santiago, Gabriel Santiago, with partnership online. If we have any questions or anything to ask of him. Is there anything, Gabriel, is there anything that you want to add to that conversation at all?
Oh, hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm not in the transportation department, so I'm more so in the housing services department. So I wouldn't be able to give you any additional information regarding pickups for jail services. But if you do have other questions, I can try to help answer.
Okay. Give you that opportunity. Thank you.
Another important point is that the drivers are contractors with partnership. So it's not, so there's also the due diligence of confirming that that driver is doing the pickup, they're confirmed. Partnerships just do that, and they do. Then sometimes people drop the ball. And so that
Thanks, Melissa. On the board protocols and governance, data on coordination.
Yeah, I think since our last meeting, I communicated with Karen Lovato and I CC Janine, but I was really communicating more directly with Karen about the board's interest in quarterly updates, like sort of standing quarterly updates from the behavioral health department. I did tell her, which maybe I should have checked with you first, that a more formal invitation was forthcoming. So I'm going to coordinate with the chair and see. I mean, I'm pretty sure this is what the board decided last time, but kind of a more formal request from the board chair to do quarterly updates to the COC board. And I think that that's going to be well received. I mean, and Karen did share with me, they've got a lot of major projects going on and are still filling some vacancies. So I think there's just a lot that they're trying to handle. A lot around housing, but a lot around some other projects as well. So I'll make sure to have that I'll work with the chair to make sure that kind of formal invitation happens before our next meeting.
Number 2 is chair and vice chair terms expired.
Yeah, so our governance charter sets the chair and vice chair terms to 1 year. And so we need to have 2 separate actions. One to nominate and approve governing board chair. So the person who will lead these meetings every month, the person who will serve as the spokesperson or the approved person who can speak publicly for the COC.
the person who like signs off on letters of support, things like that. That's the role of the chair. And then the role of, then we need to nominate and approve a new governing board vice chair, whose role is to fill in for the chair anytime they need help with their duties. There's no actual like separate responsibility for the vice chair. And I'm the permanent secretary. There's no term for that one.
Who's the vice chair?
Currently it is Priest Martinez. He's not able to be today. So it does have to be a board member. So one of the 12 people on the bottom of page 2. I did talk to Paul and Priest both. Paul is open to continuing the role if others don't step up. But please step up if you really want to do it. Is anyone willing to accept a nomination if nominated?
I think serving this just for a year is a very short time. And I think that people feel hard.
Want to extend the term?
I certainly recommend that Paul continue. The chair. I mean, I do. I think it is a short term.
It is.
You know,
Although
I can tell he's less anxious than he used to be.
you don't want to take it away from him.
The role.
No.
And since Priest isn't here, we should just,
So am I hearing a nomination?
I give a nomination for Paul.
Paul, do you accept the nomination? Okay.
Thank you, Paul.
Thanks, Paul.
Is anyone else interested in being chair?
Vice chair.
Well, we have to do them one at a time. So Judy, did I hear you make a motion to not to approve, to nominate and approve Paul Davis as
Yes. Yes.
governing board chair? Can we get a second for that?
I'll second that nomination.
I'm gonna, is there any comment from the board on that? Any public comment? Okay. When I call your name, please say yes, no, or abstain to approving Paul Davis as the governing board chair for 26-27. Ash,
Yes.
yes. Melissa,
Yes.
Joanne,
Yes.
Judy,
Yes.
Teresa, yes. Unanimously approved. Now we need to do the same thing for a vice chair. I do know Priest did not respond to my email. So I think he's ready to step down from that role. So we need a new vice chair.
I'll nominate Teresa. She just said no.
What do you think, Teresa? Is that something you'd be open to doing?
I am always here, you know.
That's those balls.
Yeah.
The only time I could see that being an issue is if we're doing some kind of a recommendation from the governing board regarding HAP funding, because both CDC and Hospitality Center receive HAP funds.
So they just recuse.
They would recuse and try to go around the conversation. Putting it out there. So is that an acceptance?
I suppose for a year, I'll do a year commitment.
When it was more than a year, people wouldn't commit.
I'll take the turn.
They're like 3 years on the board. Okay, thank you. Joanne seconded that. I need to, you're chair again, so you.
Oh, yeah. So there's a motion. Please take a vote.
Okay. when I call your name, please say yes, no, or abstain to approving Teresa D. Simone as vice chair. Ashley,
Yes.
Blythe,
Yes.
Melissa,
Yes.
Joanne,
Yes.
Judy,
Yes.
Teresa.
Abstain?
Sure.
Thank you, Teresa.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
So we're gonna move on to funding. Starting with HAP.
Earlier this month, can't remember exactly the date, I think it was Friday before last. HCD, California Department of Housing and Community Development, released a revised HAP Round 6 NOFA to basically to get out funds for HAP Round 7. There won't be a separate application. It's an amendment to our existing application to expand upon how to use the increased funds. It's a little less than 900,000 for each, the COC and the county. So it's a combined just under 1.8 million for HAP Round 7. It is limited to the same it's limited in the same way that HAP Round 6 was, that we had to first fully fund our entire interim housing budget across all projects, whether they were HAP funded or HAP eligible or not. And that is for congregate shelters only. It does not include non-congregate or motel vouchers. I'm going to be working with HCD on how to address that and how to articulate that. And so here pretty soon, we'll probably need a HAP Round 7 ad hoc committee, but not today. Not today. I don't know what the deadline is for the HAP Round 7. I've been so distracted by the COC stuff that it's just fallen off my radar. So HCD is going to be hosting office hours to go over that application and NOFA. And so I'll have more information.
Your full application.
No, it's an amendment to the existing app. So we won't have to do a new one.
Are the spending deadlines like split or something since it's later or what? Do you know what I mean?
I don't know how that'll be addressed. That's probably in the NOFA, but I haven't read that far into it yet. It is on the HAP main page, so if you just type in HAP HCD, it'll pop right up, and the NOFA will be the first thing you'll see on that page. Any question? So, as I shared on August 10th, during our meeting that started at 1:30 p.m., August 7th, Judge McElroy in Rhode Island passed a partial summary judgment that vacated the existing 2026 COC NOFO. While we were meeting at around 2:00 that afternoon, HUD issued an email via its SNAPS competition and SNAPS information listservs that they were honoring the judge's ruling and that the 2026 COC program NOFA is no longer in force because HUD is not able to accept applications at this time. That email is included in your packet as the last page, if anybody wants to review it, page 15. So we have a local competition that's still listed on our website with deadlines, still reflecting the 26th. And so my request from the board is to rescind the local competition, pending further direction from HUD. They're still gonna have to appropriate the funds, they're still gonna have to get it out. We just don't know what that's gonna look like. And so that's why I was like, I'm not sure if you want to disband that funding committee, ad hoc committee, or if you want to keep it in place so that I have folks to work back with as information comes. That's kind of the way I prefer it if I can continue working with the committee as things.
Yeah, I think we should keep the ad hoc committee so that we're on the fly, ready to go if need be.
Because it was Blythe, Paul, and Priest. Melissa, sorry. It was her first one. So, okay, great. So we need a motion to rescind the local FY 26 COC program notice of funding availability and need further direction. Well, should I do something different?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to rescind the local RFP.
Second.
Question.
No, I mean, HUD has since filed an appeal, and so they're appealing it.
Which the judge denied.
The judge denied, right, because she said that their process is unlawful. So we'll see what happens. I mean, apparently the issue was the public comment situation. They didn't provide lawful public comment, so it will probably end up in them having to release a new NOFO. But we'll see what happens.
The problem with a new NOFO is the public comment period has to be 60 days. So that's an extra 60 days on top of the normal 90 days for a NOFO. That's 5 months. 5 months from now is January, February. HUD was given a directive from Congress in the Appropriations Act that they had to have awards announced for the COC program 2026 funds by December 1st. So I suspect HUD is going to go to Congress and say, hey, judge said we can't meet your deadline. What do you want us to do? Or they're going to release a NOFO and not honor what Congress said and not have the deadline be like January, February.
But then they'd probably be sued by what's in the NOFO.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes.
Have they ever released like a continuing resolution on like, from like last year's? Has that ever happened before? I mean,
This is all new to me.
yeah.
But I can't say that the history of the program or not. I don't know. But not since it's been the COC.
Good news.
McKinney Vento, before the Hart Act came, I have no idea. It may have, but since then, there hasn't been anything like this since 2025. All right, well, you ready to vote?
Yep.
Okay, yeah. When I call your name, please say yes, no, or abstain to rescinding our local competition. Ashley.
Yes.
Oops. Blythe.
Yes.
Melissa.
Yes.
Joanne.
Yes.
Judy.
Yes.
Teresa.
Yes. Should I abstain?
I think you should abstain. Has to be on the safe side. Motion approved. That's it. Oh my God.
All right. Well, our next meeting, right here in the 3 months of 2023. Everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. I know. That's when most